High on the list of things that we learned from Cisneros that you can apply to your own narrative are how to make your words say more. Sandra Cisneros is a wonderful example of how to use fewer well-chosen words to create even more meaning. You can kind of think about it like this. If you have a really busy story, just like this pretty busy painting, it's easy to get lost in lots of details and kind of have an overall just wash of experience instead of any particular focus. But if you narrow in on one specific part of the story and let everything else kind of rotate around that, you end up noticing things about that pivotal moment that you wouldn't have noticed otherwise. So that's what we're asking you to do, is to zoom in on one part of an experience and really explore and describe that moment. If you're interested, that is The Boating Party by Renoir, and IKEA recreated that painting in an ad. Let's look at what this looks like for Cisneros. So this is from Alicia, Who Sees Mice, a story you know well. This is about what Cisneros is trying to get across, and this is 149 words. Alicia's dad always complains if the tortillas are not ready, or if the house is not clean, or if breakfast is late. When she complains about seeing mice in their little rickety apartment on the side of the railroad tracks, he tells her just to ignore them, like a horse who silently flicks flies off its back without registering their presence. Sometimes he doesn't believe that the mice are there at all and tells her that she should stop making up imaginary excuses. So Alicia gets up early every day and resents him. She would prefer to be in bed, sleeping in the way he does. He never is awake early enough to see the mice, but she sees them, early in the morning, hours before his alarm clock even thinks about going off. The mice are always in the corners, in the dark, but she knows they're there. That's the idea that Cisneros is trying to convey. She says it in just 66 words. She says, "Close your eyes and they'll go away," her father says, or "You're just imagining." And anyway, a woman's place is sleeping, so she can wake up early with the tortilla star, the one that appears early just in time to rise and catch the hind legs hide behind the sink, beneath the floor-clod tub, under the swollen floorboards nobody fixes, in the corner of your eyes. So Cisneros captures everything that I wrote in my version in just 66 words. Similarly, this is the backstory for Alicia. The whole backstory, I think, is this. Alicia didn't always have to get up so early. Her mom used to do the work of making the tortillas the family would have for lunch. But her mom died several years ago. She had bone cancer for many years. Although she had a lot of support from Alicia's aunts and neighbors when she got sick, and even after she passed away, Alicia still had to take care of most of her mom's work on her own. But Alicia is an only child. She has no other siblings and no one to share the work with now, except for her dad, who doesn't want to wake up early to make the tortillas for the lunch boxes. And she is so busy trying to fill the gap her mom left in the household that she doesn't even have time to be sad that her mother passed away. That's 148 words giving Alicia's backstory. Check out how Cisneros does it. Alicia, whose mama died, is sorry there is no one older to rise and make the lunchbox tortillas. That's only 18 words, but we already get that her mom died, that she feels burdened by making the tortillas, that she doesn't have time to grieve her mother because there's nothing she's sorry about except making the tortillas. And then I added all the backstory about the cancer, but you can see it doesn't really matter to this story. So here Cisneros really encourages us to think about, what do we really need for context, and how can we just drop context in a few words. Similarly, we have Alicia's reaction to this. Ironically enough, Alicia's mom didn't really like getting up early to make the tortillas either. Sometimes, Alicia thinks that her mom probably would have preferred to sleep in too, but it didn't work out that way because the expectation was that her mom would cook the breakfast for her dad. That's 50 words. We get that here. Alicia, who inherited her mama's rolling pin and sleepiness. And really, sleepiness, I think, conveys the whole backstory, that her mom was always tired because of getting up and didn't want to do it either. Finally, here's what Alicia wants for her life in my words. Alicia has decided that she wants a different life from her mom. Last year, when she graduated high school with good grades and solid letters of recommendation, she applied to the local community college across town. In order to get to that college with no car and too much traffic to bike, Alicia must take 2 trains and a bus, but still, the trip feels worth it. She is determined to have her own life turn out differently. And that's 78 words. Cisneros does it this way. Alicia is young and smart and studies for the first time at the university. 2 trains and a bus, because she doesn't want to spend her life in a factory or behind a rolling pin. And that's exactly half as long as mine and says it better. Okay, so what do we learn from looking at this in Cisneros? How do we learn how to say more with less? Well, first, there's some basic lessons. Cisneros cuts out anything that seems repetitive. There's no need to say things more than once. Think about now that you've built out your context, try to start your story closer in time to the actual moment so that some of the context can drop away or be built into a flashback. And then think about removing places where you talk about your emotions and thoughts. Let your figurative language and your diction show this for you. Instead of saying I'm sad, describe how the rain wept. And that will get it across in a much shorter way. We can also learn from Cisneros' sentence structure, and there's some things I'd love for you to try to experiment with in your own draft. So how does Cisneros get more out of a single sentence? One thing she does is she uses lists. So from Alicia, an example is a good girl, my friend, studies all night and sees the mice, the ones her father says do not exist, is afraid of nothing except four-legged fur and fathers. So this list is a list of descriptions of Alicia that gradually kind of enrich our understanding of Alicia so we get a full picture of her in a very short sentence. My attempt to model that is my own. So my friend, who I met when I was 6, who threw a punch when I couldn't, who eats the cone before the ice cream, who laughs like butterflies, is here. So again, short phrases in a list to kind of describe a rich portrait of a person is a way to get a lot out of a single sentence. Another thing we can learn from Cisneros is the way that she adds descriptive phrases instead of full sentences. So instead of explaining how Alicia's mother died, how Alicia's mom was always tired because she was making the tortillas, she lumps those into just very short descriptive phrases. So she says, Alicia, whose mama died, who inherited her mama's rolling pin and sleepiness. And so those very short phrases embed a lot of information. My attempt to copy that is, my father, always laughing, never with a raised voice. So again, we have a series of descriptions of my father to help build out his character and his backstory. Finally, Cisneros experiments a lot with incomplete sentences and unspoken words. Most of the time, you do want to have complete sentences, but in creative and fictional writing, you're more free to experiment with the forms of your sentences to see what sounds good to you. So for example, instead of saying that Alicia rides 2 trains and a bus to get to the university, she says 2 trains and a bus, because she doesn't want to spend her whole life in a factory. Okay, my attempt to copy that is 3 simple words, and my world came crashing down. In both of these, I've left out kind of the beginning of the sentence. So instead of saying, I heard my friend say 3 simple words, I don't know, and my world came crashing down, I've simplified that sentence into 3 simple words. The same way that Cisneros doesn't say, Alicia rides 2 trains and a bus across town to the university because, she just says 2 trains and a bus, okay? So your job here is to experiment both with at the structural level, where can you take out context you don't need, or where can you move realizations into your statement of purpose, and at the sentence level, where can you experiment with lumping together several sentences into a single list sentence, or where can you experiment with having an incomplete sentence and letting your words kind of carry more weight on their own. Channel Cisneros the best that you can. She's the genius, and you get to learn from it. Good luck.